Hey everybody, Josh, amateur radio call sign KI6NAZ. Today I want to congratulate you on the purchase of your new
insert brand and model
amateur radio. And today I'm going to show you how to use and operate this
insert brand and model
amateur radio. All right, stay tuned. Let's get started. Well, thanks for watching the ham radio crash course again. Today, I'm still battling my 10 over S9 noise floor on HF, so I thought I would do something a little back to basics. Today, I'm going to show you the operation and use of a handy talkie. I have a myriad of handy talkies here. I'm going to show you with an overhead video what the standard functions are, the universal functions, the universal operation that most handhelds share, and then I'll walk you through the actual use of a radio on the air. And just a reminder, this channel is supported by you, the viewer, so if you are interested in picking up any of our merch, like our HRCC shirts, or support us on Patreon, the links are in the description. And as always, if you give us a thumbs up, we really appreciate it. It shows YouTube algorithm that you like this and you think it should be in front of other people. Okay, thank you very much, I appreciate it. All right, these are my HTs. There are many like them, but these ones are mine. And believe it or not, they share a lot of standard operation type controls that you need to be aware of. Normally all of them have an antenna port. Generally on the left hand side there are rare instances where there's one in the middle. The antenna port is likely an SMA female, noted by the hole there in the bottom of the SMA port. But you could have a Baofeng or a Chinese radio, and that would give you a male port, and that's denoted by the pin right there, the male end of the SMA connection. They all have some kind of volume control on top, and more often than not, there's also a squelch control. The Baofeng UV5R just has a simple volume control on the top, and that also turns the radio on. However, in something like the FT3DR, the top dial actually changes through your memories, or if you click the VM button, which stands for VFO or memory, when in a frequency, you can actually hop through the frequencies with the dial. Below it is a volume control knob. And that's the same way that the FT60 works. So we're in memory mode. I'm clicking the top wheel, and I'm going through my frequencies. If I hit V and M, now I'm in frequency mode. So I can scan through the frequencies. And below that is the squelch. I've opened up the squelch. This radio, it's squelch on the bottom, whereas the FT60 is volume on the bottom, and you have to use a button on the side. I have an ID31A here. Guess what? Same kind of thing. I'm scrolling through memories of different D-star repeaters, and underneath it is the volume control. So you're likely going to find some amount of memory control with this top or bottom here, and then also a speaker adjustment or a squelch adjustment. And remember, squelch is simply when it opens up the limit on the noise floor. So when a signal comes in and it's a S9, for instance, it'll break through that noise floor, or your squelch lower. So this is the lowest point of the squelch, and if you turn it a little bit more, it opens it up. So you want to set that a little bit above when it's just open noise, so that anybody that keys up on this frequency, which we should be on 520 actually, 146.520. So if anybody were to key up on this frequency, it would break the squelch and we'd be able to hear them. All right, going around the sides of these radios, a lot of them have a PTT, pretty much all of them have a PTT on the top. This radio, which is a Kenwood, has a lamp and a monitor feature. When it's on and you use the monitor, it breaks the squelch temporarily. This has a lamp button, click it, and the lamp turns on. On the other hand, the FT3DR has a PTT, a monitor button, same thing, and it has a squelch button. So unlike its brother, the FT60, I guess its older brother, the FT3DR, you have to click the button on the side to turn on squelch and then adjust with the volume knob. And if you turn it all the way down, it opens squelch and you can hear the noise that's wherever's around you or you're at. The Baofeng has a bit of a different setup, and this is, you got to be a little careful about this one, okay? It's got a PTT. It has a light. It says Moni, which makes you think monitor, but you got to hold it down to activate it, okay? Now, what's up here, this orange call, will turn the FM radio on. If you hold it down, it will turn on an emergency beacon on whatever frequency you're on at the time. Don't use this in almost any situation. There's really not a reason that you would just have a siren playing over any open frequency, because it's not giving any information to someone if you are actually in trouble. So don't push that button or disable it completely. All right, the FT60, similar thing, PTT on the top. It has a monitor button, and this is the light on the side. I believe it's the light. Yeah, I think it is. The ID31 PTT, and it has a monitor button to remove the squelch. Okay, pretty straightforward. All right, so where a lot of radios will differ a lot is what's on the right-hand side of the handheld. There's usually a speaker and a mic jack. Speaker mic jack on the Baofeng, speaker mic jack. The charging port on the Kenwood is right here on the side. This radio actually has a combo speaker mic jack and a charge port. That's the same with the FT3DR as well. It has one speaker mic port and a DC charge. In addition, it has a USB connection and a micro SD card, which is shared with the ID31, which has a data port, a DC in, and its SD card is over on this side. So they have some similarities, but you can figure it out really quickly by looking at it. Right? You've got mic and speaker, speaker and then mic, two separate ports, as well as speaker and mic, two separate ports. Now, they call this the Kenwood port for a reason, because this is actually a Kenwood radio, and guess what? It has a flat speaker mic port with different diameter plugs for the speaker and the mic. All right, let's look at the screens and the front face panel, keypads and whatnot. Believe it or not, these radios all have a lot in common. You just go about them in different ways, but to get to the same result. Right now, I have them in some form of frequency mode or memory mode. Now, the key thing to keep in mind is that radios are, handheld ham radios want to operate on a frequency. So there's usually two things you can do with them. You can put them in VFO mode, which VFO allows you to cycle through frequencies, like I'm doing right now. Or if you program it, like through the data jack or by hand, you can put it in memory mode. And when you do that, now you are cycling through pre-configured memory locations that you've already done, but you control it by switching between VFO and memory mode. Let's take a look at the other radios where their VFO memory mode is. So we are on memory mode right now, and there's a VNM button. If we click it, we'll enter into frequency set. And if I want, I click, let's say I want to go to 146.520. There you go, 520, using that little clicker on the top. So same idea, right? We went from memory into VFO and back and forth. The Kenwood, an older radio, same concept. We're in frequency mode right now, and I'm going to switch it. I'm going to go to VFO. It has its own button for VFO. And then I'm going to go back to memory. Again, it has its own button for memory. The Kenwood has a very busy keypad. All the Kenwoods generally have a single press, and then you press the F button to get whatever the blue words are above it. So for instance, if I hit the F button and hit AB, that will split it to a dual watch or a dual frequency control, or dual memory modes. And now I'm flipping through memories. Okay? The FT60 is incredibly simple, works on the same principles basically as the FT3. VM down here switches it into memory mode, and now we're going through memory mode and memory channels. Very straightforward. Now the only one that's rather different than the whole bunch is the ICOM radios, but they also have a memory and a VFO function. If you click V megahertz, now you are in frequency mode and you can slide through the frequencies. Since this radio is a bit unique, I'll just show you this up front. There's no keypad, obviously, no numeric keypad. So what you do to find repeaters is you hold down DR, and you do a near repeater, or you can do repeater list, but near repeater is fine. And you just go all, or DV, or FM. DV being digital, D star, FM being analog. So we're going to go ahead and do D star. And it'll search through its list of repeaters. It found Anaheim, so we'll go ahead and join that one. All right, so you know how to flip through memory modes and VFO modes. Well, what do you do now that you have VFO mode enabled for some, whatever purpose? Well, generally you're going to type in a frequency. Now, another button that most radios have is this band button. Now, for most radios, it doesn't really make sense to really care about this button, but there's a couple radios like this Kenwood where it gives you way more bands than just the ones you can transmit on. So by clicking band, you can see that's 70 centimeters. Click band again, that's 2 meters. So now we're in AM 146. Now we're in 179, that's weather radio. 223 is part of 220, which is the 1.2 meter band. That's just receiving. 640, different band. This radio can't transmit there. 1273, so 1.2 gigahertz. This radio can't transmit there, but it can listen. Flip it all the way down. Now you're in AM. You're in HF. That's 40 meters. And then you start to go back up. So this is FM. FM frequencies 91. And then we go back up to aeronautical AM. And then you're back to 146520. So the band button in the case of this radio is actually really useful. And such is the case with the FT3DR as well, because this radio is wide banded. So you can actually go through and do the same thing. So now we're up to 707, 910, 640 AM. This is commercial FM. Now you are in 40 meters, HF. Back to 50 AM, aeronautical band, and then back to amateur radio 2 meters. So the band button does quite a lot. The Baofeng, though, has it, and it really doesn't need it. But if you click it, there you go. It switches back and forth from whatever that is. That's a little bit beyond 70 centimeters, and then back to 2 meters. Same thing for the FT60. The FT60 actually does have a bit of wide bandedness. So we can go through, let me get out of memory mode. So there's 220, 350, 70 centimeters, 940, and then back down to 146. So this one actually, I believe you can go down pretty far. So if I do enter 125, this is a monoband radio, so it doesn't have a band button. This only does 70 centimeters. But that's what the band button does. Most of the time, like I said, for the Baofengs, it absolutely doesn't matter, because when you're in VFO mode, and if you want to switch to a different frequency or pull up a frequency, you don't have to click band and then start monkeying around with the buttons. You can just type in the frequency. So 446000 is the calling frequency for 70 centimeters. You just type it in, and that's it. And then you can Kilo India 6, November Alpha Zulu radio check. And you can just do a switch over like that. Very simple. Same with the FT3. In fact, this radio, you just type in what you want. So if you want to go to 446, now we're in 446. If you want to go to 40 meters, you go 007 megahertz, right? 175. Now you are in 40 meters. Note that the FT3DR does not do single sideband. It is just AM, so it's of limited use on the amateur radio HF bands. Regardless, it's nice to know. Same deal with the Kenwood. It's in single channel mode right now. So I will just go ahead, and you can't type anything in with the Kenwood. See, here's another thing. You got to be mindful of this. See the numbers that are on the left-hand side of the buttons? To type in a frequency, you have to hit enter, E-N-T. You hit enter, and then you can do 70 centimeters or 40 meters if you wanted. 007175, and that is the broadband noise that is coming out of the power pole in my backyard. It's getting picked up on this little whip. That's how bad it is. You can see what I'm dealing with right now, and then back to memory mode by clicking MR. So it's really easy to jump around. Obviously, radios like the Kenwood and the FT3 have a lot of added features to them with embedded APRS and GPS. This is wide-banded, so it can do pretty much wide-banded stuff. It's strictly analog, but it's a nice radio. It actually has a band scope on it, so if you click F and then visual, you can actually see the signals. So you can see here, that's actually 7.18. You see the bars there? Those bars there are denoting the noise floor that I have, and that's again on this little whip antenna. So it's bad. It's bad, guys. It's real bad. See it? It's just wherever you go, it's real bad. You can do the same thing here, although that's just for funsies. I've already covered this in some detail. Let me go back to VFO. And then look at that. So much noise. So you can use your memories and you can just scan through them, but there's often an easier way to just scan for frequencies at any one time. So let's go back here, get out of that. We're in VFO mode, and I want to be in the 2 meter band. So there we are. I do have a tone, a PL tone that is being sent when I PTT, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. What I'm going to do is simply scan. All radios will have a scan capability. Now this radio and the FT60 have what's called an FMW menu. If you click that, it gives you a longer list of things you can do with the radio. Kind of unique to Yaesu. If you click on that and go to scan, which is right there, and click it, you'll start scanning. If you go to the Kenwood, notice there's no scan button. Let's go back to 446640, but we're going to change it. We're going to go to 146520. I'm going to turn off the visual indicator, and I'm going to hold down the MR button or the VFO button depending on what I want to scan. So we're going to scan VFO, hold down the VFO button. So these two radios are scanning 2 meters next to each other. Same thing with the Baofangs. Take it out of memory mode, go back into VFO. Let's go to the AB channel. AB clicks to the top and do scan, which is this blue button here. Hold it down. And now you're scanning. Hopefully you can see the difference in how fast these other radios scan in comparison to the Baofeng. This radio is way older than the Baofeng, and look how much faster it is. Way faster. You can speed this up by adjusting the step size. This one though, 146520, hold up or down. We're going to go up, and there we go. It is a quite fast scanning radio itself. All right, so they're all scanning. We're not going to pick up a lot because obviously their antennas are lying flat, but you get the idea. To take them out of scan really quickly, just click the PTT on the side. All right, let's talk about dual channels and dual watch. This is a dual watch capable radio. It's not dual receiver, but it is dual watch. It's splitting time, listening to these two frequencies back and forth, and when it hears something, one will kick on and quote unquote take the receiver. You can switch it by pushing the AB button, and see the arrow going up and down? This will work in VFO mode or memory mode. You can switch between them just by clicking up and down. FT3DR is a little bit more complicated than that. If you want to enter a dual receiver mode, which this does have dual receivers, you hold down AB, and that'll take it to just 1. If you bring it back, now you've got 2 again, and clicking the screen is what lets you switch. And you can also click. So I like to, sometimes it's not always easy clicking, but you should just be able to click up and down, or you can just click AB and it'll switch for you. Okay. The Kenwoods are going to function the same way. They've got an AB button. If you click F and then the button above, which is dual, now it's a dual receiver. Okay, go AB to go to the lower one. We'll change the band. Okay, just get the noise out of the way. So now we're doing dual watch with this radio running AB 2-channel receive. The FT60 does not do dual watch. So you are forever stuck with whatever frequency you're working on at that particular time, which is generally okay, but the newer radios kind of have the capability to do dual watch, and I generally like it. I like the ability to run APRS, for instance. I like to run APRS and then have the VFO open or go back into VM for memory, or VM, click memory, and then I can just slide this over to 2-meter simplex. So I can be monitoring 2-meter simplex while transmitting on APRS. If you want to see anything I've done in APRS or anything on this radio specifically, I did multiple videos on it. I did a deep dive that walks through a lot of the features. So I'll link that in the cards in the description for you to watch. Now, unless your HT has a lot of extra features like the FT3 and a little bit with the Kenwood, or perhaps you have a DMR radio, and let me do this whole thing again for DMR. It's a bit different. Now, you might be asking yourself, why did I wait till towards the midpoint of this video to bring up DMR? Well, DMR is unique because these buttons are all programmable. That's a part of what you can do with the programming. They have a standard set of things they can do, but they're generally much more user configurable. However, it does have a PTT. It does have something you can do to display batteries on that button. That is the receive button, so I'm assuming no squelch. And it does have a memory select on the top. DMR radios like to have something on the top to change memories, and then you also have volume control. That's kind of where the similarities with all these radios differ as you go to DMR, because then as you cycle through things like this up and down toggle button, well, what is that doing? That's changing your home locations or your zones. So I have a home for me in Cerritos, and I have another one for my Zoom spot, and another one for another hotspot, and then it goes back around for already what's programming on the code plug. But then you get on-screen displays, so you have a menu, you have a list of different talk groups, and then things like P1, P2 are programmable. Let me go back. Right now that's not doing anything. This one switches A and B into VFO. This is your VM button, by the way. And then, depending on what you have here, this is a channel pull-up. And then it has a plug on the side. Hey, look, that's a lot like the Kenwood plug. So it shares some things in common with other radios. But DMR is kind of a specialty case because it is programmable, and it's going to depend on which radio you have, although it still has some similarities. So I wanted to do kind of wrap this thing up a bit. You've got your radio. Hopefully you have a better understanding of it. And do check out some other videos on how to program them. I'll link to my videos on programming Baofangs and programming the FT3DR. I think I might have done some other ones, but those are the big ones. And once you have it programmed, you'll now have likely repeaters in memory slots. But you know, a lot of the time you can just hop on 146.520 and you can try and make a call. It's likely handy-talkies are they have a harder time at it because you only have this little antenna and you have 5 watts output. You'd be better off generally with a mobile radio that's in your shack. That gives you the full 50 watts output and usually a proper quarter wave antenna. So quarter length of 2 meters, right? Physical quarter meter. A quarter meter antenna, basically 1/4 wavelength, is 1/4 of 2 meters of the physical space of the wave of 2 meters. I hope I made sense with that. But I'm on 146.520, and I can simply key up and I can say, this is Kilo India 6 November Alpha Zulu. I'm just doing a radio check and see if anybody can hear me out here on 2-meter simplex. And then we can just wait. Now, you might not be very lucky to have a lot of people in your area. I happen to have a lot of people in my area that use simplex, but even with that said, I still end up generally using my mobile radio to do simplex calls. Well, let's say you're on a repeater and you want to try and talk to somebody on the repeater and you hear some traffic going on. Let me go ahead and go back into the repeater here. So I've got a repeater that I can generally hit from my home. Let's see if we can make a contact and check out how I sound. This is Kilo India 6 November Alpha Zulu, just doing a radio check. Am I making it? How do I sound? Couldn't have done that better if we tried. Okay, cool, I'm making it. Thank you. That was so fast. Oh my God. I can't. He's trying to make a nice video for people. And then that. So realistically, you're not going to be dealing with the type of local yahoos I have to deal with on some of the repeaters. But with that said, it's generally a really good idea to just give your call sign and say what you're looking for. A radio check. How am I sounding on the repeater? Even ask for some tips, right? So start out something easy. I'm doing a radio check. And if somebody comes back to you, ask, how am I sounding? Am I making it to the repeater okay? Is there anything detectable in my audio that's making me sound distorted? Those are all really simple things you can talk about that move the conversation along and will hopefully lead to interesting discussions, probably about more radio talking stuff. Hopefully it isn't someone saying, shut up, stupid. But that can happen. That's not how it's supposed to be on repeaters. But at the same time, some repeaters are different than others. If you, that also brings up a good point I should mention. If you happen to find a repeater where the people are not very welcoming to you and you don't really want to deal with them, don't deal with them. Don't try and get in their good graces. Don't try and become a member. If you don't like the people that are repeater members and repeater owners, if you don't like them, don't deal with them. Really, I highly recommend you not play ball and try and play this political game of trying to gain favor with repeater owners. Repeaters are great, they really are, but analog repeaters can be pretty tough in some locations, particularly if it's like the only repeater in the area and they have kind of a fiefdom of control and they've got some bad actors out there. It's best to just not play their game. I would recommend you find a DMR repeater or some other digital repeater in your area that you can talk on, or get yourself a hotspot. With a hotspot, you can connect to any talk group in the world, basically, and you can find more like-minded people that will be more interested in the conversation or your type of conversation that you want to have. Now, of course, I'm talking about handhelds, but I gotta say, it is really nice to be able to step up to HF eventually, so if you have not already, start considering getting your general license. It really does open the door up to much broader communication, and I'll break that down quickly. If VFO is line of sight, meaning it punches right through the atmosphere, then you're only going to ever hear people basically about what you can see. And those people are going to be the people that are local in your area. You may not like those people. That may go back to the repeater owner that we talked about earlier that you may not like, or the people on the repeater. HF, however, gives you beyond line of sight capability by refracting your radio waves off of the ionosphere. So your sphere of influence, your sphere of capability on who you can hear and who you communicate with opens up tremendously. And you're not tied to anything like repeaters. The frequencies are open. You can use basically any frequency that's in your privilege set. But that gives you a lot more people to talk to and more things to do. Like digital modes. You can do that with VFO or VHF, UHF, but generally HF is a little bit more target-rich environment. Okay? Hopefully that was some helpful information. If you have any questions, please post them below and I can do an update to this video. I can contact you directly or you can contact me directly. The links for all the places to contact me are in the description. Please consider joining our Facebook group. It's an inclusive environment for any questions you want to ask, as is our Discord. Our Discord is growing like crazy. We're over, I think we just hit 10,000 members, which is awesome. The Discord discussions are amazing. So is Facebook, but Discord's a little bit more my speed. If you haven't tried it out, the link is in the description. It's a free application to download and use. It's very safe. It's not like Facebook or other social medias, so consider giving that a shot. I am Josh, KI6NAZ. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll talk to you again soon. See ya.